Please do.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us for the Sunday forum this morning. I'm gonna give you my coffee cup in update. If you are finished with your coffee mugs today during the forum and you don't want a second to go upstairs, you're welcome to put the mugs on the tray back there and we'll get the mugs right into the kitchen for you. Don't even have to bring them back upstairs. So, we got a special introduction today from Mary Smith with Hopeful Earth, the Earth Keepers Group. That will introduce our speaker, Kirkpatrick. Turn over to Mary.
Thanks for joining this morning. We're Earth Keepers is sponsoring this forum today, and you want to hear more about Earth Keepers. We're trying to make the church more environmentally friendly. So today we've got Kelly Ray Kirkpatrick, and Kelly Ray created the Plant a Seed initiative in 2017 to inspire a better understanding of our food system. Through partnerships, Kelly brought the Seed Library, the MLK Community Food and Learning Garden, Community Coffee House Composting, and free educational programming such as Local Food 101 to Rochester. She funded the Olmsted County 2021 Food Security Assessment with a grant from the University of Minnesota Southeast Regional Sustainable Development Partnerships, which led to the formation of the Olmsted County Food Security Coalition. Kelly loves to teach folks how to grow food, design sustainable spaces for pollinators, and provide fresh vegetables to low access income neighbors from her free veg table each summer. Most recently, she has joined with others to create the Flatterley Park Community Food Force. And that's what we'll be hearing about today. So welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. I'm very excited about being invited to speak here, present with you all, because as Mary said, I'm rather passionate about food systems, particularly localized food systems, and I love to grow food and teach people to grow food. So I wear many hats in the community, so you might notice that this presentation is with University of Minnesota Extension. I just spent 3 years chairing, co-chairing, and vice-chairing Master Gardeners, and boy, was that an ordeal over the pandemic, and I'm glad to now be on the leadership team to kind of relax a little bit. But I'm also on the State Board of Water and Soil Resources, and you may know me as your Ward 4 City Council person. So I'm going to bring all of those tools together today as I do this presentation, but mostly speaking from my heart. So here we go. So the Flatterley Park Community Food Forest, it takes us off here. The Flatterley Park Community Food Forest is in the northeast corner of Flatterley Park. And you can see it's just south of 8.5 Street there. But we started that with a group effort a year ago in 2023 in March with a group pruning event. And then if you recall last spring, we had a lot of rain that made things grow a lot. And then we had a lot of no rain. And then we had a lot of drought. So last summer, we kind of mixed everything, knowing that water is such a critical element on our planet and in our little space as we get exceptional drought levels for a full week. Fillmore County kind of won for southeast Minnesota, and they finally come out of the drought with the last rain we had. But it was put on hold until we're restarting it again this year. We had our second pruning event just a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago. Well, this is really slow. So the MLK Community Food Garden, the Learning Garden, I also created in 2020, and this is a recent picture, all ready to go, all cleaned up. We've got 315 square feet of pollinator bed around the perimeter of the garden, and the garden is about, I don't know, 1,800 square feet. And this is a partnership, and I'll talk about how important partnerships are for doing this kind of work here in a minute. So first, the history of community gardens. I couldn't find find my favorite picture. I thought I had it on my phone and I don't, but it's sort of that back to the land seventies movement, grow your own food. And I would have inserted that in here, but if we start off on the left, you can see something from World War I. The original community gardens were called war gardens, and because everybody was joining with the Allies to try and feed the troops. So I just love this. Buy food with thought, cook it with care, use less wheat and meat. I don't think we're still on the use less wheat, but we certainly got the gluten-free movement going on. And eat less meat. I mean, we've got meatless Mondays, we've got only eat meat on Mondays. We're learning that meat is maybe not the best contributor to environmental health. Buy local foods, wow, is that a biggie now, 100 and some years later? Serve just enough food, in other words, save what you need and just don't overconsume. And then use what is leftovers, so don't waste food. I love that one from World War II. Then we go, or World War I, then we go to World War II, and that's when they became victory gardens, because those war gardens in World War I were a major contributing effort for feeding the troops, like I said. So they became victory gardens in World War II when we did the same thing over again. So a couple of those, and then I love the comic over there on the right with Superman, Robin Hood, and Batman, and I think I posted that on my Facebook page a couple of years ago, saying something like, "It's gardening season, everybody get your tights and capes on, let's go." And it was kind of fun, got a few responses, and then now we're doing climate victory gardens. So community gardens have been around for a very, very long time. So what's the purpose of a community garden or a food forest? Well, to me, and the reason I have created these projects within our community is to transform an unused or unmanaged area into a vibrant space that offers fresh food and fosters community. I really believe in that. I think it's important. So with that intention in mind, that was where we set off to do the MLK Community Food Garden in 2020. Didn't know the pandemic was going to happen when we put the proposal in 2019, but thank goodness we were able to get it put in place. We went a little low, didn't follow some of the rules because I was intent on getting this food growing, but I'm known to be a bit of a pirate at times to get stuff done, and that's just fine with me. So the background and the timeline is sort of the same for both the food forest in 2023 and then the community food garden at MLK in 2020. And these are sort of things that we went through. And because both of them are on city park space, we of course needed the permission from the park board. Doing it on an empty city lot, having a community garden on an empty city lot would of course require some city permission. A big neighbor or a neighbor with a big lot next to you perhaps, you wouldn't need that. You just need that neighbor's permission and then to come together as a group to do that good effort. And of course the weather patterns, as I described in the beginning, really, really critical to how you're going to move forward and what you're going to do with your success level. You need to remain adaptable because the weather is the number one changer for the food that we grow. It's really important to understand what's going on in the area where you want to do this community effort. For instance, I can't quite see the date, but I believe it was, May of 2020, this young man, can't pronounce his last name. I believe it's Vietnamese, but I'm just gonna call him Quentin for now. He decided to cut off all the sod in his front yard, a very large front yard, and he wanted to create a community garden. The city council immediately shut him down. Now, this is at the height of the pandemic here, when we're suffering milk dumping, supply chain disruption. It wasn't until December of 2020 in the wintertime that the city council actually adjusted their ordinance to allow people to grow food in their front yard. And it's pretty shocking to me that as a property owner, you can't grow food in a particular place on your property. We have changed some of that with our unified development code. It's kind of pushing urban agriculture right now, even though we've got some smaller setbacks with our developments that we're doing. We've added ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and things like that. But we're sort of pro urban agriculture now in word. So just mentioned that unified development code. We, the city council, adopted that in January of 23, a little over a year ago.
And we do tout sustainability and resiliency here. As an environmental radical, I wish we did more, but I enjoy compromise. So all of you folks, wherever you may be that are not environmental radicals like me, temper me and bring me to the middle, because I think that's the way to get some good stuff done for all of us. And as I said, urban agriculture is a piece that we are trying to push right now. So here's two more recent pictures of the MLK garden, and what you really want to do if you're going to create something like this, for instance, on your church property, you need to know if that's possible, and then you need to have buy-in of the community. Maybe there's only a handful of you that want to do this, and the rest of the congregation is going to say, no way. Well, what is your success rate going to be like? It's probably not going to be very high. So you need to have a successful model that can bring forward to anywhere else to try and get some buy-in. And we use the MLK community garden for buy-in to suggest to the park board that the Slattery Park Community Food Forest would fly. And they bought it because we've got a large organization, the Master Gardeners involved, and my name was attached to it, and I do a lot of work here at the MLK garden, including teaching classes. And, you know, as Mary introduced me, I give away a lot of free veg, and we support our low-income, low-access neighbors with fresh veg through our neighborhood association. I apologize for this being so slow. So you want to have a good site. Let's think about your area here. You really can't do anything east because there's a lot of blacktop. Really don't have a lot of boulevard space to grow stuff, and boy, would that require an extra permit with our city. But just on the south side of the building here, you've got some nice green space where you could incorporate a community garden. Mary called me over a couple of years ago to kind of talk about that and educate, and I think you've been doing great stuff back there. I even got some of your pea rock when you needed to get rid of it, didn't I? Yeah. So existing space is important. And you want it to be in a well-used area that's easily accessible like we have. So for instance, in this MLK Park here, most of you know it as East Park if you've lived here for a long time. This is East Center Street, and it curves around south down to 4th Street right here, and this is an edge of the Federal Medical Center. So right here, the garden is located, right at the end of this road, at the end of the cul-de-sac, and we've also got a frothing course here, disc golf, frisbee golf, if anybody remembers the term frisbee. So that's right here too. So this is an exceedingly well-used park, about 1,000 people a week in the summer because, forgive me for not being into sports. I'm kind of addicted to gardening, but who's the professional basketball team? Is that the Timberwolves?
The Lynx.
The Lynx? Okay. Thank you. I do like hockey. I played hockey when I was in high school, so hockey I kind of love. But so the Lynx, excuse me, did a really great basketball surface here. So just tons of people using that all the time. So very well used city park that we put a garden in. And here is Slattery Park, that northeast corner again. Here is 8.5 Street, an aerial view of our gorgeous downtown during sunset. But there's an existing orchard here. How many of you knew there's 18 apple trees in this orchard? Yeah, kind of cool. Our past city forester put those in. They were neglected and unmanaged, so that was a big selling point. Parks went, gosh, we got people to take care of these now. Let's do it. So it's right here along the bike path. Is the microphone going in and out?
Sorry.
Do I need it?
No, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So in this corner here is the orchard, and this is where we are attempting to set up a food forest this year, providing the weather cooperates with us again. Right here is Bear Creek, and we've got the bike path right along here. So we've engaged Slattery Park, and it aligns with city goals, like I mentioned, and we all voted for the park referendum, 61%. So people enjoy our parks, so doing something in the parks is a great way to get involvement. Who's heard the African proverb, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Yeah, it's a good one. And these are all of the folks. I believe I actually may have left one or two out. And my apologies to anyone that I did leave out, but this is what it takes to do this stuff. You gotta get out there, you gotta talk about it, you gotta invite your neighbors, you gotta welcome your community and just go for it. And people work together and do a high five and fist bump at the end of the day, knowing you've got something really awesome done for a community. So I'm thankful to all of these people who helped us get that MLK garden going, and then also the Slattery Lake Park Food Forest. I actually left off now that I see it. We've got University of Minnesota Extension Snap Ed here. We've got University of Minnesota Extension Master Gardeners, but I left off University of Minnesota Extension Master Naturalists. So they have been there all the time too to help. So sorry to the Master Naturalists there. So as I said, it's about community. That's what these vehicles for fresh food are. But the questions that you really need to consider when you're doing something like this is, who will help us create this space? Again, that African proverb, if you want to go far, you need to go together. Believe me, one can exhaust themselves trying to do a lot on their own. I am a model of that. What do you want to grow? Who are you growing it for? Those are important questions. Let's survive in our climate. What activities do we want to do here? When we put the proposal in for the food forest, we imagined a little raised wooden stage for acoustic musicians to come by for community gathering for music. We talked to Art for Trails, seeing if maybe we could get another concrete pin put in for some more art in that corner of the park. We've invited Cub Foods to help host some of the events by giving us some food. There's a grocery store right next door. My good friend Tom Bellinger, who I consider to be a master brewer because I don't brew anything and he's always brewing beer. He wants a hop yard so we can teach about hops and craft brew. So he's really excited about that. So what do you want to grow in your garden or in your food forest? And as I said, who's going to maintain it? So we've got all those partners we can call on, and they're ready to go and ready to help and offer advice and suggestions in their labor and pull together to design and develop this program. So where will the food go? Or how will you store it before it goes somewhere? That's a biggie. Many people think, oh, I'm gonna grow all this stuff and I'm gonna take it somewhere. Well, what happens when you get your maybe small box of tomatoes to Channel One and they say, oh, we're sorry, we only take large donations. Where are you gonna take those tomatoes? What are you gonna do if you harvested them at their peak and your refrigerator's full, and by tomorrow they start to go back? So these are considerations you have to have when you are growing a lot of food for people. Maybe just the gardeners are going to be taking everything home. It's up to you what you want to create, where you want it to go when you harvested it. I love this photo. Most of you are older than me or my age, so my daughter came of age with the Harry Potter series. I know J.K. Rowling is a little bit of a political subject right now, but I'm just going to go back to these wonderful stories that kids grew up on. Dumbledore's Army, Good by Evil. I feel like that's what this picture is. I love this photograph. We descended, the county donated the compost, the city donated the hauling, 40 yards worth of compost. Does everybody know what 1 cubic yard is? It's 3 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet. It's basically a cube of disposal, 40 of them. And how did we move it? By hand with shovels. And we got a lot of young crew members there that are helping out, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. In one day, we had the large refrigerator boxes down on the grass. We had the compost down. It was a great rainstorm, so we couldn't plant on Saturday, but everybody, again, adaptability with the weather, right? Everybody said, no, we'll come back on Sunday, no problem. I had everything ready to go, and we planted the garden on Sunday. So that smother and cover technique of cardboard and then your material on top, boom, instant garden, no tilling, no disrupting of the soil health underneath. Super easy, super easy to do. So you can see here, this was Sunday, we started planting. This was all that compost that we put out on top of the cardboard. And I invite you all to drive past this garden or pull into that cul-de-sac and get out and walk around it. We haven't done any cleanup yet, so no judging, but it's ready to go. We're going to be getting out there in the next week or two. And this is what we had, and we put in some fence posts. this guy, I'm out there alone, hanging out after everybody's gone, because I want to make it perfect. This guy comes by and he said, "You look like you need some help, got a sledgehammer in your hand." I said, "Sure, I can do this on my own, but you're a lot bigger and stronger than I am, so help finish pounding all the fence posts." And we get people from the Frisbee Golf Course coming by all the time to see what we're doing. They take veg. It's just wonderful. We have donated signs from University of Minnesota Extension that talks about pollinators, food health, nutrition security, healthy vegetables to eat. And then this is not quite done because we actually painted this with chalkboard paint and we use it as an information bulletin board now. But that's the garden, and it's changed. If you recall those beginning pictures that I showed at wooden posts, we've got a full 8-foot fence there that we actually use to grow our vines. So we literally increased our growing space by 315 square feet just by adding vertical gardening. So consider that when you're growing your food. Melons, squash, cucumbers, indeterminate tomatoes, they can all grow on a trellis or a vining system. Indeterminate, yeah. So the kickoff event we did to inspire community at the Slattery Park Community Food Forest. I know it's a long acronym, but sometimes you gotta use those because those Excel boxes don't allow you enough room when you're organizing your files to send out to everybody. Great turnout, we pruned. This is the beginning year 23 when we pruned just a month ago. There was no snow on the ground, but we had a great turnout. It was a lot of fun, a lot of news press coverage for that one. And the community just really dove in to get those apple trees closer to what they should look like to produce apples. It was a project that Parks took on, funding, monies, available people on the Parks and Rec department were unfamiliar with how to prune apple trees. So it's reciprocal. They're providing space for us. We're taking care of that space. Arbor-wise, my friend Raul with R&R Landscape, Jay Jost, who has a lovely orchard over in Rochester Township, southwest of here, came. And then I taught pruning as well because I used to climb trees and I was a pruner before I had kids. So we kind of taught everybody how to prune apple trees appropriately, and they're getting into shape now. And it was a decent production year last year despite the drought, but we're hoping for a lot more this year. So that community kickoff event can be really, really helpful. And then, of course, donations. Do you want to take donations? Probably. You want to make sure they're not invasive. You want to make sure they're going to thrive in our climate, and you're going to want to make sure that they meet that message of what you're trying to do, that mission of what you're after. So Blue Fruit Farms, I guess another ally sponsor that I forgot that love and that logo slide, but Blue Fruit Farms donated currants and elderberries. Thankful to them. Sarah Miles brought those. I met her in some parking lot someday because I had some meeting to pick up free shrubbery. So that was fun, and we grew those out. And they will be planted. They've been healed every year. A lot of seed donations from Seed Savers Exchange, and then Pearson Organics donated a lot of plant starts that we put in on that Sunday, the day you saw us planting. So, been talking about a food forest, but do you know what a food forest is? How many of you have ever heard the term and you know what a food forest is? Oh, don't be shy, raise your hands. Okay, all right. So we grow food gardens, and what do we do at the end of the year with them? We either pull things out or cut it off, we throw it in the compost, or it goes in the garbage. I hope not, it goes in the compost. And it just sits there fallow for the rest of the year. And then you replant it in the spring. That's what most of us do with our gardens. A food forest emphasizes perennial plants, such as asparagus that come back up again every year. Our beloved Minnesota rhubarb, raspberries, hardy kiwi vine, which is kind of a scary plant to plant around here unless you've got a really strong support system for it. Our apple trees, grapes, all of those things that come back year after year are what we put in a food forest, because it minimizes the amount of inputs that you have every spring. And food forests oftentimes are claimed to be permaculture. How many of you have heard the term permaculture? Okay, so permaculture is an agroecological practice to grow food in a more ecological fashion, that it would be very different than, let's say, our conventional agricultural system where you're tilling, heavy inputs of water, irrigation, heavy inputs of chemicals to maintain a soil chemistry that will produce enough food. So very, very opposite of that. But there are also other agroecological practices like silvopasture. Silvopasture is not grazing our animals on an open pasture with more refined grasses. Instead, it's grazing them underneath trees and within a forest, so they get a shaded environment so they don't overheat. There's also, let's see, silvopasture. There's people have heard of no-till or cover crops, split seeding. Those are agroecological practices as well. So they're all kind of fitting under the umbrella of regenerative agriculture now. And permaculture is one of those little niches that is under that big umbrella that's helping us to grow food better and more environmentally better. So that's what a food forest is. So we have many things planned. I mentioned the currants and the berries that the Food Farm had donated. And then, of course, the 18 apple trees that already exist there. But the group wants to put in some plum trees. We're going to try out Contender Peach, a newcomer from the University of Minnesota Extension, and add some peaches. And of course, the rhubarb. I have 18 rhubarb plants I'm big enough to take them out of my hair at home. So I'm excited to donate all those and just keep 5. So yeah, that is where a food forest is. So, going to feature the Bancroft Meridian Community Garden here. The Bancroft Garden is located up in the cities, kind of in that triangle of 35W, the Crosstown, and then 55, just kind of east of Lake Harriet. And they're growing a bunch of food for low-income community, and they really did it because they wanted to bring the businesses and the residents together. It wasn't so much about food, it was more about bringing community together. So here's that word community again. They have an exceedingly diverse community, and it was a way to bring those neighbors together through food, because something that we all need is food. Pretty much standard, the same amount of calories every day for basic activity levels, etc. Some of us need less sleep, some of us need more, some of us need more clothing, like in Minnesota in the wintertime. Some of us closer to the equator don't need as much clothing, but food is the one deal that we all need. So this garden strives for social and ecologically sustainable practices, and they want to help make the lives of the Bancroft neighbors more affordable, especially now with food inflation that we're seeing, and localizing a food system can really help with that. And then there's the Prairie Ally Outdoor Center. It's in Laverne, Minnesota. How many of you have been over to Laverne? Yeah, a lot of wind turbines over there. They're doing some pretty neat environmentally sound stuff. Very different area than here. A lot less rainfall, higher water table, just really different part of our state. So I encourage you to kind of head over there. Pipestone National Park is kind of a cool thing to see if you've never been over that way. But for them, it was all about accessibility in an aging community with a fair amount of physically disabled neighbors. So they wanted to make sure they were creating a space that anyone could join and get to. That was paramount for them. And then they're offering this garden so that anybody can harvest for free, go into the garden and help themselves. That's the way the MLK garden is set up. It is planted and anybody is welcome to go in and harvest. There aren't individual plots. There's nobody assigned to taking things. We just welcome people to show up. As a matter of fact, I think the second year we planted it, I came there one day to pull the hoses out to water or something. I can't remember, but there was one broccoli plant missing, one eggplant missing, one tomato plant missing. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting way to share food. They just took the plants they needed to start their own garden in their own home. So I thought, okay, that's a little different, but it worked. So this is free public harvesting, whereas with your community garden back here, you probably don't invite the public. You manage it a little more tightly than that, and then you distribute your food where you agree to distribute it to. So, as I was saying about food forests, they kind of work to provide food for the others, capital O, those other animals and the organisms living in our soil and the pollinators that we're so concerned about lately. So I've got a bunch of resources for you here before I wrap up and go to some Q&A. This might be tricky, Carrie, because I might have to unshare and share again to navigate these UMS sites, but I'll do my best. So now I'm putting on my Master Gardener hat to really promote the heck out of University of Minnesota Extension. The land-grant university system across our country is absolutely phenomenal. And again, reaching into that realm of sports a little bit, we are a Big Ten university, but that's also for a lot of the research, the academics that we've done. University of Oregon has a great horticulture department. Cornell is awesome. Penn State, University of New Hampshire and Vermont. Texas has some great stuff, and all of the schools sort of specialize in that niche that is specific to their climate, their soils, their amount of rain that they get, that kind of thing. So here, we focus on a short growing season. Our ag department focuses on vegetables and of course, apples and grapes. I'm sure all of you have had a Honeycrisp apple at one point in time. So we are, one of the things we're very, very known for is our apples with the university. So if you want a little bit of help with your vegetables this year, you can go on this website and open, whoa, awesomeness. University of Minnesota Extension vegetables, but you can't see it. So let's see here. I'm going to stop share. And then I'm going to share again. Ta-da! Okay, here we are. So this is the vegetables website, and if you scroll down this screen, you will see vegetables A to Z. So you can find your favorite vegetable, like rutabaga. Who loves rutabagas? I like that. My hand, I figured I would. Good job. Okay, awesome. So let's click on rutabagas. There's all the things you want to know about turnips and rutabagas. Planting, how to keep your turnips and healthy, managing pests and diseases. You can do this with so many of the vegetables on this website. It's really phenomenal. So I encourage you to go on this vegetable website to just learn about all of these edibles that you see here. That is vegetables. So the next thing we have is fruits and nuts. So we are known for a few of our varieties of fruits and nuts with University of Minnesota. And here is the page there that you can't see because I have to stop and start again. I haven't ever done so many different internet slides from the Zoom meeting before. So here we go. Again, some of the favorites and what you can do with different cultivars of various species, stone fruits, the apples, berries, grapes, and other things. So easily you could Google UMN extension, fruits and nuts. Really simple to find these resources. They're set up that way to encourage everybody to be able to find them. If you don't have access to a smartphone or a computer, invite your children or your grandkids over and they will rock it completely and you won't need to worry about a thing. I think I've got yep, there's a Minnesota apples one that you can go ahead and navigate and find specifically, UMN extension apples. And there is grapes. Famous Dr. Swenson has developed so many grape cultivars for our state that are doing some great things. And just a quick plug for Salem Glen Winery. They have a lot of Dr. Swenson varieties out at their site, just south of town. And they're a great little spot to visit. And one of the funnest things to do is to help harvest grapes in the fall. They basically use volunteer labor to harvest their grapes, and you're there having a great time. It's this like community support, again, of this local agriculture. So you can also do grapes for Minnesota, UMN extension, to find grapes if you want to start growing grapes. So to recap for everybody, why do we need or why do we want community spaces? Well, first and foremost, we grow food like the War Gardens, the Victory Gardens, and climate victory gardens. It's to promote fresh food access, to give us more nutrition security than we would have otherwise. We want to create diverse landscapes that foster a lot of diversity. We want to build maintenance and harvest camps, such as at Slattery Park. Parks were unable to keep up with that, and now they're able to, and we're providing a service for our community. We talked about engagement with the Bancroft Garden, or with Quinton, who was shut down by Falcon Heights, but then it was approved finally. He wanted to create a community garden for his neighbors to help during the pandemic. Save money on food purchases. I think we've all noticed how expensive food is getting. So that's a good way to do that. Health and wellness, conservation, and grow a more localized food system. That's another reason to start growing food. The caveat with that is don't be watering your garden every day. That's a misuse of water resources. If I put on my Minnesota water steward hat for just a moment. Veggies only need about an inch of water a week. So save your water and water appropriately. Water wisely. You can look up water wisely on UMN extension too and learn all about that. So thank you. Does anybody have any questions? I went through that rather quickly. Yeah.
Is distribution one of your big issues? It looks like a lot of these crops are all gonna come August, September, October and hit the marketplace.
Yeah, they are.
What's your preference for distributing?
Well, I like to go to some of the smaller folks that need the veg, like smaller organizations like Promote Your Women or Lifegate Services. Pastor Tope is over in a small church by Jefferson Elementary School. We can produce enough to go to Channel 1, but the Channel 1 food bank, as you all know, it's struggling to get enough food to people. But what they leverage with their funding in an excellent way is shelf-stable, commodity-based foods that aren't necessarily high in nutritional value. They've got energy, caloric value, but not nutritional value. And I'm a proponent for fresh foods and for healthy foods and a localized food system. I particularly don't believe that it's sustainable to throw my money in Georgia just to get a big, huge pallet of bananas up here, or to get a lot of boxes of Cheerios. I know those foods are important and they serve a space. Immediate food response is definitely a way to help all of us that may be food insecure. But yeah, come August when the tomatoes are going, there are so many people that will take veg. I think I gave out almost 3,000 pounds of food from my own garden from the MLK last year. And people just walk by. It's just sitting out there in the shade, sometimes in the heat. I'm going to put an umbrella on issue, but it is amazing how many people need food and they want healthy food. So distribution is a key.
I agree. I don't think Channel 1 base.
Right.
They're not.
They're doing their own good thing.
They're
Yeah.
using some churches.
Yeah.
You know, this one.
Churches are a great
That
place.
Facebook programs and such.
Yeah.
Incorporate it in there. But right now you're asking people to kind of come to where the gardens or take what they want.
Right, exactly. Or if we harvest on a Saturday from MLK, we take a lot of it to Lifegate Services. So, or anybody else that reaches out. So Thomson Reuters wrote an article, I think, a year and a half ago about churches, and you guys are sort of an exception here, but churches now have some of the largest land holdings in our country. The ability to grow food on church property is really huge right now. So if there's other congregations that you're with, or to get groups of churches together to promote this, it's a really great way to promote land access for people that don't have it, that want to grow their own food. So Mr. Farrell's question was distribution being difficult come the height of summer when we're producing so much at a time, but there's plenty of people that will take the food and want the food. This gal was first, and then I'll go back to you.
Run into vandalism in your gardens. I know you have the 3 plants taken.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Actually, the fencing that we put up, once again, is kind of a volunteer rigged fencing at MLK. And, you know, if we were getting money for it, we would have built it more sturdily, but they are fairly sturdy ag panels that are held up just well enough to support the height of vines. And I think some kids had some fun to see how high up they could climb. And I got there one day and 3 panels had all fallen in, and I had to go to Menards or Tractor Supply and get some 1x2s and stack them together to create a deeper channel. And I called Parks and sent them some pictures just to let them know But yeah, but otherwise there's not vandalism. And well, just this last fall, somebody graffitied with spray paint on that little chalkboard area. And that's the nice thing about the partnership with parks, and maybe perhaps my position as a council member, that I texted the director of parks the picture of vandalism and said, hey, what about this? And he said, we'll get to it right away, and they did. But I think our wonderful parks department would do that for anybody, you know, if something like that is reported, so.
Great project.
Thank you. Any question?
Question about the Arboretum of the cities too. Is there any affiliation? Like, are they doing classes or teaching, you know, about community gardens? Or I just heard you talking a lot about apples too, and you know that that area is known for that.
Yes, yes. So I actually sit on the state advisory board for the Master Gardeners, and I just presented up there on Friday about the seed library, which I helped co-found with my friend Heidi, and then technical services and RPL has taken off and done great stuff with that. Thank you, Carrie. So the Farm at the Arb, which is a recent introduction at the Arboretum, back in one of the corners, is where a lot of the education and extension for those woody fruits happens. So you can go to the Farm at the Arb, up at the Arboretum, and of course, there's all kinds of classes offered. You can find them online easily. But the Arboretum is the hub for a lot of the research that's done and the classes and the horticulture that's done with University of Minnesota Extension. And then there's also the St. Paul campus downtown, where they have a lot of ag and research pods where like doctoral PhD candidates are doing their work, and some of the other studies that are being done. So yeah, the Arboretum is a great place to go. It's beautiful. There were so many bulbs there on Friday, even though it was chilly. But yeah, I encourage you to go there and learn what you can and just absorb that great space.
Beautiful space.
It is. Yep, it's about 2 hours from here, hour, 40 minutes, 2 hours, so it's kind of a long drive. But another garden we have here in Rochester that's a hidden gem is the Smart Garden at RCTC. How many of you know of the Smart Garden at RCTC? Yeah, it's really quite neat. I would call it a miniature botanic garden here in Rochester. So you know where Homestead Medical Center is, kind of at the corner. Actually, if you can go back to, I know it's about time to be done here, but that very beginning picture of MLK where the square was going around the curve from East Center Street down to 19. You just continue south on 19. There's the Heinz Center parking lot. Just pull in there into the Heinz Center parking lot and you'll see this big arbor to walk through. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful garden. It's maintained by the Rochester Garden and Flower Club and also the Master Gardeners. And SMART stands for sustainable. No, I wish, yeah. A is artistic, R is rejuvenating, T is, I don't remember, I'm bad, sorry. But yeah, so that Smart Garden is really neat. It used to be a part of the horticulture program that was at RCTC and also part of the turf grass and golf course management program that was there. Those were all shut down a couple of years ago by the horticulture department. So that turf grass area isn't so well maintained, but it's a beautiful garden space that was designed by a local landscape architect, Amy Masterful, a couple of decades ago, because it was a state funded project. And there's a beautiful little prairie there that you can learn about. It's a gorgeous pond. There's a beautiful alley. There's a little park there that we're going to be planting vegetables in. A medicinal garden that's labeled. Just really take the time to go enjoy it with some of your young ones, or take a picnic there. There's a beautiful sculpture there. It's a really lovely location. It's a hidden gem in our city, the Smart Garden at RCTC. Yes, sir.
Are there opportunities to partner with private garden plots?
When you mean private garden plots, he's asking about opportunities to partner with private garden plots. There certainly are. The History Center has a community garden, and the Village Agricultural Cooperative, they have a large space out there. They have put up a hoop house to provide growing space for some emerging farmers, mostly immigrant farmers here that have come to live in the community. But let's see here, on 4th Street in my neighborhood, I know there was a community garden. Three Rivers Community Action owns all of the houses along the north side of Fourth Street there between Seventh and Eighth Avenue, and one of those lots was a community garden, hoping to resurrect it this year. So is that what you're talking about, or?
7,000 square feet of garden space with a line of fellow is here for the first time in 42 years.
Oh, you're one of those thousand guys.
And so I'll keep it filled, and it's got asparagus that we'll use, but otherwise it's gonna sit, and it's a shame.
Yes, it is a shame. So I am zipping to my last slide here. You can get a hold of me at that email, kelly@thegardenlife.org. I know of who can farm all of that space right now. Or do you want to just text me right now with your text? My phone number is 507-271-1081. Yeah, and where are you located?
5 miles north of town.
Oh, awesome.
That's a
Yeah.
district for transportation.
It is for some people, but we've got a really large emerging farmer group here that is really hungry for land access, and that's one of the big things that's going on right now is land access. We've got farmers, I'm not gonna ask you your age, but the average age of a farmer now is just under 70. I'm like peak age for a farmer. I turned 60 at the end of the month. And it's like these younger folks, we thought we would pass farms on to our younger members, and they're not doing it. But there is a certain amount of our population of younger folks that are just really into growing food. And they need to take off and they need to do it, especially in a climate like ours where we typically get enough rain. There's a great podcast called Hot Farm. And they talk about how the near Delta area, Bakersfield, that Central Valley of California, we've all heard about those water woes. We really believe that our food system is going to shift to the near Delta, Missouri, Arkansas, Southern Ohio, Tennessee, that area where we get so much rain and it's warm enough to grow a lot of food with hoop houses or tunnels. And how are we going to get enough water to our food to sustain the population in the future? And if you saw all the links that are open on the computer right now for all stuff like that, where's the water going to come from to grow our food in the future? And some of you are old enough to remember that everybody had a garden at their house. Everybody practically used to grow some food. My grandpa loved green onions. I remember all the green onions we came out of his garden. But yeah, so it's a big deal. Where are we going to grow our food in the future? So thank you for your comment on that. I'll get your text and we'll talk.
She'll do it. She'll do it. She's gonna.
I wouldn't said anything.
Awesome, good. So if you're going to the 11 o'clock service, you're now late. So if you want to keep asking me questions, I can certainly answer more if nobody is heading to the service, but otherwise, thank you so very much. This is really a delight.